Hello. Thank you. Okay. I'm Darren Towers, Head of Sustainability and Environment at EDF Energy. In case you haven't heard of us, we're the largest producer of low-carbon power in the UK, about 15,000 employees, and we supply about a fifth of the UK's electricity. So that's the corporate bit done. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the challenges we're facing in the energy sector, which sound a little bit familiar listening to some of the earlier speakers from this morning as well, and a little bit about what we're doing within our business to try and address those. So some of the key challenges we're facing at the moment won't be a surprise. Addressing climate change and reducing our own contribution to climate change and adapting to inevitable climate change. Security of energy supply and ensuring we've got a diverse mix of energy supply for the future. And affordability issues in terms of pricing and vulnerable customers and poverty, fuel poverty in particular. Big issues. Those aren't going to go away. They're always there. They're always things we're trying to work on. So we need the right skills to address those issues within our business. I think you've heard that word, trust, mentioned a lot today already, and I think for me that it underpins the whole thing. You know, how can we as a sector, as a company, be seen to be trusted to handle these particular issues and make that difference and be seen as a responsible and credible operator in the areas where we're trying to make a difference? And underpinning all of that as well is skills. We know that, for example, 55% of A-level and university students aren't thinking about science, technology, and engineering as careers. We know that over half of 7 to 11-year-olds think science, technology, engineering, and maths are boring. And we know that over half of our engineering workforce is over 45 years old, and we need more people to bring into the business because we're going to need 8,000 new jobs by 2015 in our sector for our company. In order to address those challenges. So there's some real challenges around skills that we need within the business now and skills that we need for the future. So a simple framework to think about that then would be we need leaders within our business who kind of get what we're trying to do on sustainability and get what we're trying to do on those issues and actually enable it within our business. We need employees who understand what they need to do and actually actively participate and embed sustainable thinking within their day job and do things slightly differently to address some of these challenges. And we need future employees with the right skills and passion about these issues as well. This is not just a technical challenge, it's very much a human one for us. Our chief exec has a way of putting it, which is around thinking about addressing sustainability as not just the kind of planet we're ultimately leaving our children, but the type of children that we're actually leaving the planet as well. So it's his fundamentally taking into account skills, education, and very much the human challenge in some of these things as well. I think you'll see on some of your tables some copies of the report on a leadership skills inquiry that our chief exec led a couple of years ago with BITC and several people on stage as well. It's well worth having a look at that because that's helped direct some of our own thinking in terms of what we do to address this skills challenge, to address things like climate change and security of energy supply and all those other issues. So what are we doing? In terms of leaders who get it and enable it, one of the big things that we've done is work with the Cambridge Programme for Sustainability Leadership to develop an in-house training programme for our senior leaders. We've put over 100 of our senior leaders through this programme at the moment. It's been quite successful, so we're rolling out further sessions this year as well. You've heard the word collaboration already a lot today as well, and it truly is a collaboration. So we work with Cambridge Programme for Sustainability Leadership. Will Day, who used to head up the Sustainable Development Commission, comes in and does the whole doom and gloom bit for our leaders, which is very much around issues around natural resource scarcity, climate change, and all these kind of things. So they sit there thinking, oh, good grief, we're all doomed, what's going to happen? We ram the message home then with Emily Shukborough, an Antarctic scientist from the British Antarctic Survey, who comes in to talk about her own experience of climate change from an Antarctic perspective and drives home some of those messages around climate myths and actually what is happening. We have a collaboration between external people coming to do this and our own leaders within the business as well. So there is an EDF Energy perspective to some of this. So it's not just these are things that are happening in the outside world. It's very much how are we thinking about these things within our own business as well. So there's a little bit about our own approach to tackling some of these. And then our pre-dinner speaker is actually Alan, who comes on board and gives a more optimistic view of how we can achieve 9 billion sustainable lifestyles, which he'll also be doing later on this afternoon. So do catch it if you can, because it is a very good and inspirational speech. And then we take our delegates through a day after that, which is very collaborative again. So we bring in the likes of other leading businesses, so learning from Marks and Spencer's, learning from Network Rail, sustainability and safety people, learning from Interface Floor in particular as well. A mixture of presentations and lectures, and then those speakers spending time with small groups of our senior leaders as well, talking about their experiences where they get to share, collaborate, challenge on some of those ideas. And it's all related back to our business, infrastructure investment, changing the hearts and minds of employees and customers, these kind of things. So we really tailored it towards things that make sense to the people in the room. Some of the big benefits from this have been around we've seen some really big light bulb moments where some of our senior leaders have really surprised us. And one stood up at one point and said, I'm really angry that I did not know this 10 years ago because I would have been doing things really differently in my job had I known this, which is fascinating stuff. And we've seen people have a real emotional and personal connection to some of these massive challenging issues. So we know they're really big issues. But this course kind of tries to help people relate to it on a really personal basis, which is when then they start to feel like, okay, I can do something here, and I can work with others and learn from others' experience to do something. So we're trying to build those leadership skills in that way. It's also not just a kind of a technical and internal kind of thing. We're trying to help people better engage with our own staff on sustainability and build their own skills as well. So we get Professor Chris Rose in, who talks about 3 key different kinds of people and how they react to different kinds of messaging on things like climate change and social and environmental issues more broadly. So we're trying to give them some of the tools in terms of how they start to relate to people and express ideas on this as well. So it's taken quite a bit of development, but it's a really successful program. We managed to get our parent company, EDF Group, along to one of our sessions as well, and they're really keen to look at expanding this across their group companies internationally as well. So we're hoping to pilot that at an international level this year as well. So it goes to show that you may be part of a bigger business, but you can actually influence the wider scope as well in some of these things, and it's really important to bear that in mind. That's our leaders. Obviously, we have a lot of other employees. We've got 15,000 employees in the UK. So one of the other things that we've done is developed an online e-learning system on sustainability. Quite simple, quite straightforward, talks about what sustainability means for our business, what the common issues are, what our priorities are around reducing carbon and waste, being a responsible business, serving customers, helping communities, those kind of issues, and gives some sort of practical tips on how they can incorporate that into their day job as well. There's a handy test at the end, so we can audit how many of our employees have done it and how many have passed. And so far, I think we've had about 8,000 people complete that within 15,000 staff. So it's quite successful in that respect. It's built into induction programs. It's not the end of the journey. It's very much the start of it, because this is just providing them with some real basic information about how to embed sustainability thinking into what they're doing. But it's a key step in that process. It takes maintenance and updating. When our sustainability performance changes or priorities change, that system needs changing. But it's a really good way for our staff to be able to access information on this and start to feel that they are understanding and able to take part in this agenda. It's not the end of the journey as well. There's a number of other ways in which they can get involved. So we have, for example, a sustainability ambassador program that we've kind of pulled together under one umbrella last year. So our staff can spend 2 hours per week, with the line manager's permission, addressing key issues to them. So they can become a community ambassador, diversity and inclusion, environment, or a science, technology, engineering and maths STEM ambassador. And that might mean making small changes within the workplace where they are. It might mean going out to schools, colleges, universities and working on those issues. It could mean any number of things. But there's a program in which they can then get involved, and it's okay for their line managers to give them time to do this. So in terms of building skills on sustainability issues, that's really key, but it's also really key in terms of building general skills, so their own confidence in addressing these things and building collaboration across the business. That was one of the other things we found from the leadership training, was we started to get people whose only world was a power station, and it ended at those boundaries of that power station, and people whose only world was a customer service centre, and it ended there, and they didn't think about how we generated power or what the issues were, and the power people didn't necessarily think about what's the impact on customers, how do we get this to customers, and what's this? And having those people in the room and making those connections, it's such a simple benefit, but it was really, really key in some of these programs. In terms of one other thing I wanted to mention was in terms of getting the right skills for the next generation as well. I mentioned we'll need 8,000 new employees by 2015 to work on energy infrastructure in the UK. That's massive. We know that there's a shortage of people studying things like science, technology, engineering, and maths. So how do we get that next generation really interested in these things if we're going to ensure a truly sustainable future? In 2008, we launched a schools program called the Pod, with Ecoschools. If you want to check it out, it's jointhepod.org. It's a colourful and vibrant and not looking particularly EDF Energy branded, you may notice. There's a distinct lack of orange and blue. It was a very deliberate move. It's a partnership with Ecoschools, one of the largest educational environmental initiatives in the world. It's basically free online resources for schools on energy, on sustainability, on environmental issues. All of the activities on there have sort of assembly packs, lesson plans that can be downloaded. Everything begins and starts with an audit in terms of the activities that schools do so that pupils can understand what their impact is. The whole thing is themed around the idea of learning on an issue, acting on an issue, and inspiring others with their achievements as well. So we've currently got over 15,000 schools signed up to this programme. It's about 44% of all schools in the UK signed up. And we've engaged with now well over 4.5 million young people, we estimate, on those issues as well. So they're all learning about these issues and hopefully taking that impact beyond the school gates as well. It's been a really successful partnership. It's, again, collaboration. It's all about collaboration. So the Eden Project look at all the education resources we produce and give the nod to that. It's with Ecoschools, as I mentioned, and it's led to some other business benefits as well. So the Met Office approached us recently based on the success of our schools programme to talk about how we could launch a climate science partnership, and we'll now be working with them on introducing climate science partnership to schools around the UK, and also to bring the Met Office's learning back into our own organisation to help our leaders on some better, finer understanding on climate science as well. So there's a lot of benefits from working in collaboration and things that you don't necessarily see right at the start of a programme. I threw down some simple lessons learned. It's really not rocket science. So there's nothing groundbreaking on that slide. But in terms of just what we've learned from how we do things, those are some of the key messages around some of the lessons there. I'll leave it there. Thank you.